Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do we have a show for you today? I welcome the split decision himself. What's up, brother? Dude,
Bro, like so serious. We had to get straight into it, like impromptu emergency podcast type deal.
emergency meeting like freaking Andrew and Tristan Tate.
Um, bro, you know what's crazy? We should have had this for like the last podcast after we went off air and all the news came out about the Canelo
Oh,
stuff.
dude, the last one we did, yeah, it was literally like right after we got off air, all the news came out. So I'm glad that we pushed this show till today. And then now we're going to be able to kind of bring you guys the stories as they develop because this is pretty crazy. But in the meantime, let me start the show off a little.
Are you ready for the main event?
2 hits. Me hitting you hitting the floor.
It's time for Boxing Bananas, brought to you by Fight Bananas.
There we go. So we'll start the official show now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Boxing Bananas, brought to you by Fight Bananas. I'm your host, Ray the Business, and I'm joined with the split decision boxing, Mr. Johan Blanco. You know what I'm saying? So we're out here right now. Let me see. There we go. We got our little display names right there. Yeah, bro. So we have some crazy news that's going down. Essentially, my topics and my banners for today. Oh, actually, before I get to that, make sure y'all comment to be featured live. We will get to your comments live on the screen. So make sure you check those out. But yeah, brother, you know what I mean? We're obviously going over Beterbiev versus Bivol 2. We're going over the undercard. And then the news between the other day and today as far as fights that have fallen out. So that being said, let me do this actually. Let's go ahead and pull up the fight card and we can kind of talk about it a little bit. Where it at though? Here we go. So we have a new fight card here that was from the previous one. And honestly, I'm surprised that Shakur Stevenson is still in the same spot. Typically I kind of lead on this stuff, but as far as this news goes, if you kind of want to take it away on that one specifically, because Floyd Schofield is out of that fight, and that was as of what, Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, I think about right. I think about Tuesday night for us, about like Tuesday afternoon for them. Yeah, so interesting about developments, man, because this whole like kind of like lead up to fight week, Floyd Schofield's been kind of weird. He didn't go to grand arrivals or anything like that. He wasn't at the first press conference for this card. So everybody was having a little bit of questions on his commitment to it and stuff. So there's a little bit of skepticism going there. And then, obviously video comes out on his Instagram page, of him like, lying like he's almost dead in the hospital. And then his pops on X, talking about, Shakur tried to poison them, yada, 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 calling all this stuff. And so that's how we get to him pulling out of the fight. And we got Josh Padley in now. And this whole like development is kind of chaotic. And it's like really interesting because, his actions leading up to, him pulling out tell you otherwise. I don't doubt that, he might be sick or something.
But are you saying that it smelled a little funny?
100%, bro. Because you think about it, like, dude, his dad was talking in an interview, which he shouldn't have, talking about his last camp, that Floyd was, not focused. He was trying to eat more. He was like trying to have sex and stuff. I'm like, bro, can't be talking about that.
What is your pops doing talking about that for you?
That's what I'm saying. And the thing is like, man, like, you gotta keep that under wraps. If you feel like there's a commitment issue, you can't be saying that, because when stuff like this happens, it almost feels like you weren't ready for it. And that's what I truly believe. I think, with
the bright lights got to him.
I think so because you think about it, like he didn't even go to Grand Arrivals. He didn't go to the first press conference, and then situation like that. What I really think happened was he might have been cutting weight. He wasn't down in weight enough, and he honestly he got under the weather, or he got pretty sick, and he couldn't. I mean, he was just not fit enough to fight. But we won't really know. We only know what his pop said. And I think
Yeah.
it's a kind of a crazy situation that his pops is accusing Shakur of, tampering
Mhm.
with Kid Austin.
Poisoning him or something. Yeah, and then the other thing I'll bring up too is, am am I wrong, or wasn't he scheduled to fight uh Ashton H2O Silv?
Yeah, I think that was the Mike Tyson card he was supposed to fight there, right? Or
Like the
something like
original Mike Tyson card
the
that was
original,
like
the original
the
one.
OG that was supposed to be for July, but then it got pushed back, and
Mhm.
then they turned that into the Tampa card, and then he
Yeah,
fought Lucas Body
and he
and
got his starched.
got starched right in front of me, right live. I watched it and I was like, because he was looking good. But I mean, to get back to point, essentially, this Floyd young gentleman, this isn't his first offense.
Nah, and the thing is too is like this one's a little worse because you know his last fight, he didn't look good. Like he looked
Hmm.
gassed against somebody that was supposed to be a tune-up fight for whatever to come. He got knocked down in that fight, so he was coming off a bad look to the boxing public. And then
Hmm.
obviously his dad has been almost he's up there with Teofimo Senior and Bill Haney as worst dads in boxing right now. You
That's
know,
what I heard. I heard a lot of people are saying like, what is he, Bill Haney 2.0?
Yeah, he's like Julian Newman's dad of boxing, because he
Hmm.
has the baby voice and everything, just kind of just talking out his ass and stuff like that. And this was no different. Like leading up to this fight, he was talking about Shakur has a real test on his hand, talking all the smack in the world, and with all these accusations, it's just like man. I think the lights got to him. I really do because think about it. Like he wasn't really posting any real true training videos or nothing like that. Even when confrontations with Shakur came up, he was kind of like faltering under the pressure. So it was man, it just felt like this fight wasn't going to happen. He didn't look like he was ready for it. Honestly, he's not ready for the next level.
No, for sure. And the thing about that is, man, is it's like I'm kind of sick of these guys that it's like I don't want to accuse them of it because I can't obviously you can't prove that they're doing it, but it almost seems like they're like booking these big fights and then they pull out of it, or like they let the negotiations fall out or create some bullshit behind it for an excuse for the fight to fall through, and then they use that as a way to just like lift up their own name because it's like they attached them to that. Now you have all these articles about you. um I felt like, and I don't remember, so I might be incorrect on this example, but I felt like Frank Martin kind of did that, where specifically with Shakur, he was supposed to fight Shakur, and then he didn't want to take the 25-75 or something that Shakur was offering for whatever reason, and then after that he gets a fight with Tank. You know what I mean? And before that, I don't feel like anybody was really talking about Frank Martin. Obviously people like me and you were, but nobody else really. And then the one of the like pretty bad ones that I think I had seen was Hakeem Rahman Jr. I don't know. People have different opinions about this situation, but it was Hakeem Rahman Jr. had signed on to fight Jake Paul. Jake Paul was like, "Yo, I'm gonna fight you." I want to say the catch weight. I want to say they were supposed to fight at 200. They're supposed to fight at cruiserweight. Hakeem Rahman Jr. isn't really a heavyweight. He's not a big guy, right? You want to talk about undisciplined. It seemed like he was massively just an undisciplined guy. So he signs on to this fight with Jake. Then he comes back and is like, "Hey, I can't really make, 200. Can we do 205?" I want to say, and I might be getting this all wrong because it's all just kind of in my memory, and it's not like it was that big of a deal to the point where it's important for me to remember, right? But if you don't remember it differently, or if you do remember it differently, let me know. But I want to say they Jake was like, "Yeah, screw it, we'll do 205." And then after that, they were like, "Oh, well, can we do 210?" Or, and then he was saying like he was gonna weigh in over. So then um what's it called? Jake completely like just canceled the fight. And everyone was like, "Oh, Jake canceled the fight, blah blah blah." But it was a clear contract breach from Hakeem Rahman Jr. And then after that, Hakeem Rahman Jr. went on to actually have a name because he attached himself to this Jake fight. When before that, nobody even knew Hakeem Rahman had a son. They didn't even know this guy existed. And then, of course, his lack of discipline showed when he fought Greg Hardy, who literally gets knocked out by like everybody. He went and fought Greg Hardy and was like, "Oh, well, I'm a boxer because, this whole I'm a real boxer. I'm a real boy. I'm a real boxer." So he's not a boxer. He's an MMA fighter. And I don't care that he weighs 100 pounds more than me. I'm going to beat him. And got smoked by Greg Hardy. You know what I mean? So those are just kind of examples of it. That being said, one, do you recall those events differently, or do you even remember what I'm talking about? And two, do you feel like possibly Floyd Showfield's kind of doing the same thing where he just kind of attached, if we're going and putting on the tinfoil hat and we're saying like, hey, well, they probably weren't going to fight anyways, and they just wanted to pull out of this, is it because they're just looking for a bigger name?
So I do remember it because originally that fight was I think that was supposed to be the original date for Jake Paul and Tommy Fury. That was like at MSG or something like that. And I think
The
Fury.
original date for Jake Paul and Tommy Fury was supposed to be in Tampa, and then Tommy Fury pulled out, of course, and he had the rematch with Tyron Woodley, and I was there with my wife, and that's where Tyron Woodley got slept, and everyone was shocked. But I think it was like the second time that they
Oh yeah,
tried
yeah,
to
yeah.
make the
And
Tommy
then he
Fury.
pulled out again.
Yeah, and then he pulled out again, of course.
Yeah, I remember that.
But
I remember that because Hasim did that press conference and he was like, "She's a runner, she's a track star," and I was like, "Bro, honestly, this guy might get starched."
yeah,
I definitely think I remember that, and I remember a situation like that. I don't remember fully, but I do remember that it was a weight issue, and if I'm putting my tinfoil out, which I rarely do, but I'm gonna put it on right now. I honestly thought for the longest time, I thought that the reason why that fight got canceled, the underlying reason, is because they couldn't sell out Madison Square Garden. I mean, it
oh, I
cost
believe so as well. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think that was part of it. They were trying to do Madison Square Garden, and that was before I think Jake thought he was like a bigger star that he is. And it's like I think if he has the right fight, he can sell out arenas. But without the right fight, I don't think he's really set. Like, bro, even like as big of a star as Platinum Mike Perry is, I don't think that fight really sold.
mm-mm. I mean, that's why he did it at Adelaide instead of a bigger city like or going to T-Mobile or something like that. Just because I mean,
Mhm,
there's a little bit of there's a little bit more profit margin out in Tampa than there is going to maybe New York and Vegas. But like
mhm.
Jake Paul versus Hakeem Rahman, that's a Kareem Royale show. Let's just be honest. That is a Kareem Royale show. Big stands though. Well,
That's
definitely
not that's not unfair. That's funny that yeah, because Jake did fight at Kareem Royale. I remember that. I was
yeah.
there too. I've
Dude,
been
but
going to all those guys' fights.
yeah, but I remember that, and I remember the situation because I was like, bro, like you're talking about being a real boxer, but you can't even make cruiserweight, and you're the perfect size for cruiserweight. Like if you don't make 200, you're a blown up heavyweight, and then going
Yeah,
into
and
the
the
fight
thing
with
is when you can't be a blown up heavyweight. Like you can kind of be like a blown up super middleweight or like a blown up like lightweight, where it's like, okay, the difference is 5 pounds, brother. The difference in it, like it was either cut 10 pounds or fight a guy who was 300 pounds, and he decided to fight a guy who was over 300 pounds, and that's why he got beat against when that guy is getting knocked out by everybody else. Real quick, we got a message from Chris J, but Chris, stand by. We're gonna get to that in a second. I just want to finish up this kind of Shakur Stevenson thing now, because really we've just been talking about the guy who pulled out, who really shouldn't even be getting the attention. Because if the conspiracy is correct, where he just kind of uses as clout, then that's the whole point. Is like we're talking about this guy now when we wouldn't have previously. But shout out to this guy Josh Padley stepping up. Um, you know, it's either Josh Padley or maybe Josh Padded. I kind of looked at his record and it's not necessarily the best, but shout out to him for stepping up. You see his last fight was a 10 rounder.
Yeah.
Against a guy who's 16-0.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first fight I watched of him, and I was more focused on Mark Chamberlain. So the fact that he beat Mark Chamberlain, I was impressed with that. It's just, you look at the rest of the resume and it's like, yikes.
Yeah, you mean you didn't catch the 6-rounder?
No, you're right. I didn't. Yeah, I should have done that. That was on me. That was on me.
You didn't catch his Victor Julio fight over
You're
here?
right. Yeah. Or the Mark Butler one right there.
Yeah, right. But I mean, at the end of the day, I got to give him the respect because he's stepping up, especially against a guy like Shakur. Here's the issue, though, and I'm going to say this for probably the final time because I say it every time. Because if Shakur doesn't put on a good performance, and then this is the thing, like you have a guy here that this might as well be the same type of opponent that you used to get fed to on Top Rank, like before you were fighting for the title. So am I incorrect?
No, this is
Would
definitely
you classify it as something like that?
Yeah, this is definitely a top rank but European type of opponent. This is pretty much European top rank. But it sucks because this one is not really his fault because he was ready for Floyd. I think that's the biggest thing. It's just
I'm
now
not
he's
worried so much about it being his fault. What I'm worried about in advance is for him to still put on an absolute snooze fest. Because what I'm saying is basically my point is we're tossing you a guy who really you shouldn't be fighting anyways and is on short notice. So on paper, you should smoke this guy. If you don't go out there and smoke this guy and you do the same bullshit that you've been doing for the past couple fights, get off me, Telly. Get this guy off me, Telly, mate. You know what I mean? So that's my point with that. And what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'm just tired of people giving this guy I'm frustrated with Shakur. He's a great fighter. He has great skills, but he doesn't put on good performances. And they suck. They're boring. I'm not about it. Get this guy off me, Telly, mate.
Yeah, it's gonna suck because if he doesn't starch him, because he's a last minute replacement, if he doesn't starch him and he fights him how he's fought the last two opponents since he's gotten to lightweight, yeah, it's gonna be really bad. And especially
get him off my screen.
Especially because you look at the fight right below it, right before it, Adames and Sheeraz. I think that's going to be a banger of a fight. So,
bro, this is what I'm saying. There's banger after banger after banger, and then you throw Shakur in the card. Like I don't know why everyone's high on Shakur. Adam Hurley, Shakur's been overrated, but the funny part is Padley beat Mark Chamberlain, so he's got to be good. So we'll see. We'll see, brother. Chris J saying he's a B-side guy taking advantage of probably the biggest opportunity and payday of his career. For sure, which, I mean, he is going into this as a B-side guy. I guess you're saying he went into the last one as a B-side guy too, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I just, Shakur is, like Adam said, he's been overrated. He's so overrated. The thing is he has skills, but he's just afraid to put those skills to the test. And when you're afraid to put those skills to the test, it's like, okay, your skills were good against the lower opposition, but then don't sit here and tell me that, oh, Shakur's the best. He's so good. You got like Charlemagne being like, oh, people are afraid of Shakur. And Ryan and everyone's like, bro, no one's afraid of Shakur. That's the way it is. No one's afraid of Shakur.
Yeah, and it's crazy because again, we talked about it before. Like you look at his run at super featherweight when he was starching like Valdez, Herring, Jamel Herring, and all of that, and you look at him here at lightweight, and it's like a whole different fighter. It's almost like that range that he uses. it's almost like he's putting himself out of the fight every single time.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm saying, bro. I was talking to my buddy earlier, right? I went over to his house and I did a session with him where, we were hitting the mitts and all that. And he was talking about some of his guys that he trains and how they're looking to, start up with amateur fights. But in the sparring, some of them have been getting a little comfortable, like moving with their backs against the ropes. And we were both basically saying, like, the thing about an amateur fights is that you might be able to do a little bit better work, but sometimes that aggressor is going to get scored. You know what I mean? And I feel like in really, I would be down for that in pro boxing. I think a great example was a snooze fest of a fight I went to was Teofimo Lopez versus Jermaine Ortiz. That fight, I like on paper, like if you gave me a scorecard and told me to fill it out, it might have went to Ortiz, but there's no way in hell I was going to give him that win for that fight. Like I'm scoring like no, give the fight to I don't even care what the scorecard says. Give it to the aggressor. Because if the one guy isn't moving forward, is there even a fight happening? What's happening? You know what's going to happen is similar to De Los Santos versus Shakur. And it's just frustrating. But honestly, I don't want to give too much more energy to Shakur because I could sit here for the rest of the podcast and just rant on about how much I dislike his fighting style. You got people paying for tickets. You're trying to act like you're tough. And the thing is he could be tough, but he's not. Any last thoughts on Shakur before I freaking jump out this window?
Yeah, he just has to. He really has to prove himself. I mean, especially you got to show out on a card that has like from top to bottom is every single fight's a main event worthy fight in like on
For
the
sure.
second card. So like
For
he
sure.
really has to, especially because he kept his spot on the card instead of moving down. You got to show out. So that's all I have to say before you jump out the window and I have to do this podcast with a blank screen.
No, for sure. Adam Hurley, when there's too little action, the aggressor should get the win. Yeah, for sure. I think when it comes to scoring fights, they always talk about like, punches landed, damage, whatever. I think it's like the actual scoring criteria. One of them's like effective aggression and ring generalship, and defense, obviously. And I feel like they put it in a certain order, and I feel like it's almost kind of in that order. But yeah, when there's not enough action going on, give it to the guy who's trying. You know what I mean? I think an example of that also is kind of like Canelo versus Lara. And a lot of people were like, oh, Lara got robbed. I could see it being scored for Lara, but in those rounds, there was a point where he went from like very clean, beautiful boxing and moving to just more moving and not really punching. And then Canelo was the guy moving forward, throwing.
He was constantly on the back foot.
Yeah, and then that's the thing, when you just keep moving, but then your punches stop, it's not boxing anymore, you're just kind of moving, you know what I mean? So, and then when the other guy's actually at least he's trying to get to you and trying to chase you and he'll land a couple body shots here and there, that's how Canelo won that fight, whether people agree with it or not. Let's get back to Chris J's question. Hey, guys, when you get the chance, can you give me your thoughts on Clarissa Shields being banned in Michigan and California, one of the toughest commissions in the country, immediately saying Shields can fight there whenever she wants? Yeah, man, I think it's weird. The whole marijuana thing is like we're still suspending for that. You know what I mean? And from what I understand, marijuana is legal in Michigan, so I don't get it. My question is it going to affect the record? Is it going to count as a no contest because of that? If so, lame. And if not, then how? You know what I mean? How would they suspend her without putting the fight as a no contest? And if that is the case, is there any sort of like example of that happening in the past? Is there any case study to look at for that? Because I don't know that I've ever seen that happen. Getting suspended for like a post-fight drug test. Or what was the drug test? I don't even know what the drug test was. Was it post-fight, pre-fight, Ryan Garcia situation? Do you
It
know?
was let me check. I don't know. I just know that she got tested after she tested positive after the fight, I think, after her win, low key. Yeah. I think it was after her fight earlier this month.
And it was an oral swab, not a blood test. So what
Yeah,
the hell is that? Her man could have went and smoked a blunt, and then they could have snogged each other.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Well, she
what
was
are we
saying
talking
she's never
about?
smoked. She was saying she's never smoked. So
Bro, literally, her man could have went and smoked a blunt outside, and then they could have had a freaking spit swap and makeout sesh. And then they could have freaking that could have been it easily.
that's just that's just weird because out of all the for her to get banned for out of all the drugs that a lot of people have tested positive for, I mean this is like the most tamest outcome that could have
What are
ever.
we back in 2015 with Nate Diaz
Yeah, for real. Like
or Nick Diaz, I should say, not Nate.
yeah, like I'm
Um,
which is crazy. I hope she doesn't it doesn't change her record or anything because you think about it, Alicia Bumgarner got popped for a nice little juicy drug, and her record stayed the same. She's still undefeated. That win stayed the same. The only one, the only high profile one that I can remember is obviously Ryan with the whatever it was,
the Osterine,
the Oscar.
the
That's
fake Osterine.
That's literally the only one. But Bumgardner was the last like woman boxer who tested.
What was the deal with Baumgartner? What did she pop for? Do you remember? Do you
It
know?
was I forgot what it was. I don't remember, but it was a banned substance. That's all I know. Let me check. Let me see.
Yeah, was it? I need to look into that because this is a thing where it's like some banned substances. It's kind of like, you probably took it.
Mesterolone or something like
Oh, I
that.
don't know. I
I don't
never
know
heard
what that
about that.
is, but
But she does. I mean, she is kind of yoked. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
we got
Um,
David Elkin, Goat Boxing Show. You to goat, Dave. Adam Hurley. I can't believe marijuana use is banned. How can it help you? I can't even take out the trash when I'm like, bro. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. I mean, I know some people that can function on it, and then maybe it'll like help you with your nerves. You know what I'm saying? But for me, dude, if I try to do that, like if I even try to watch a fight, especially if it's a close one, it ruins the fight for me. I get like anxious.
but
So,
I just feel like and for me at least, my reactions like really slow. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
no, for sure. Yeah, I can't do it. But let's do this. Let's get into some of this undercard real quick because we're like 30 minutes through the show. We've talked about one fight so far. You know what I mean? So let's get to some of this. Let's start at the bottom, man. We got Joshua Buatsi versus Callum Smith, and I want to say this is for the WBO interim light heavyweight title, which I'm gonna say real quick before we even talk about the fight. Why? Why? The guys are fighting for it in the main fight, and then what? If Smith wins, he's gonna win the interim. He's gonna be mandatory to fight the guy who already beat him. Doesn't make sense. I get it for Buatsi. I get it for Buatsi. But when you fight the opposition, I don't know. Just make him the mandatory. You don't need an interim title. That's the thing too. They give out interim titles like it's candy, bro. You don't need an interim title. I'm gonna bring up an example later of when you do need an interim title. But for this, you don't need an interim title. But I'll let you go and give your thoughts on this fight, and then what I just said as well. Like, do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? I just go ahead.
Bro, I feel like I feel like it's funny like you say that because it's like, oh, it's like Oprah because it's like, oh, you get a belt or oh, you get a belt. But listen, man, who cares about that? Because we're starting out the card freaking awesome because Joshua Buatsi and Callum Smith is a headliner at a football stadium like in the UK. Like that, and that is the first fight on the main card. I think that's going to be a banger. Joshua Buatsi has been, tearing up the UK scene, you know, fighting, top guys. I think last beat Dan Aziz, could be wrong, but that was one of his last fights, and I thought that was a very good performance. Very patient guy. Takes him a couple rounds to really fill out his opponent and stuff like that. But once he gets going, he's very hard to really stop because he gets in a groove. He likes to pick and pop. Has a really good jab. Very great counter puncher. And then Callum Smith's a tough SOB. Never. I mean, besides Artur Beterbiev, that guy's hard to finish. I mean, Canelo couldn't even finish him. Made his arm look like twice the size. He looked a one-arm day. But I think this is going to be.
Real quick, to be fair, my thing about the Callum Smith fight, and I was saying this before because I used to be on another boxing program, which is like a very big one. And I was arguing with the host on there when I was co-hosting, and essentially they were like, "Oh, this was before the Plant fight," and they were like, "He's not going to knock out Plant. He didn't knock out Trout. He didn't knock out Callum Smith." I was like, first of all, Caleb Plant wasn't even pro when Canelo fought Trout, so let's not even talk about that. Secondly, he didn't knock out Callum Smith because Callum Smith was turtled up the whole time. It's similar to like Charlo. Like Charlo was a smaller guy, and had he been fighting back like he did against Castano, his ass would have been KO'd. Like Kirkland, when Kirkland fought back, he got
Starched.
he got freaking
Shadow
turned
realm.
into a meme. You know what I mean? So yeah, he went to the Shadow Realm. So Callum Smith, you know what I'm talking about. He just kind of turtled up against the ropes and just got beat up the whole time. He was a punching bag. He offered nothing, and that was it. That was actually a very disappointing performance from Callum Smith. Other than that, I feel like he fights kind of lower level opposition just to navigate his career accordingly. I don't know if you got any pushback for me on that.
I would say like maybe post 2019 because he did fight in the World Boxing Super Series and he won that. He
did win that. Of course, he did win that. And actually, speaking of that point, I don't want to go off on too much of a side street, but I'm gonna weave it and bring it back. I saw somebody comment about because they're doing that like Riyadh tournament, and they were like, "Whatever happened to World Boxing Super Series?" And then somebody was just like in the comments was like, "Oh, it sucked." So nobody watched it. I was like, well, "Bro, you had Callum Smith won, Usyk won, Inoue won." I think my issue with it was you weren't really fighting, like you were fighting to win the Super Series, but like it would be different if all the titles were involved and then whoever won was undisputed. Kind of like, wasn't it Usyk? Was he undisputed when he won, or was it afterwards? I don't remember.
It was after.
But yeah, I mean, if you get to the point, but if it's like you win the Super Series and you're like the WBA and the WBC Diamond champion, it's kind of like, okay, what was the point of the Super Series? Like, were we fighting the best guys out here? And then on top of that, you have to make like the prize cool. And I thought that trophy looked stupid.
Yeah, it looked kind of poop
With that huge, it's huge and it's like a big spiral thing. I thought it looked horrible. Adam Hurley said, "You're not into Callum, I take it." He's just not my favorite guy. You know what I mean? Because I felt like him going up to 175 and then getting a title shot against Beterbiev maybe was premature, especially after the horrendous Canelo performance. And then you're gonna tell me that off of those two performances, like, okay, yeah, they were good performances, but it's like, I would want to see him fight a top dude, and then go into a Beterbiev fight, but I think the Beterbiev fight kind of went the way I thought it was going to go. Callum's been up against Canelo and Beterbiev. Even when you lose, it can help you. It's a good fight. I mean, for sure, but I don't think the Canelo loss helped him. I thought it made him look worse. The Beterbiev was all right, but he got stopped. And look, I'm not trying to just shit on the guy. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I'm more impressed with his brother knocking out Eubank Jr. But what I will say is if he beats Buatsi, take everything I said and flush it down the toilet, because he's one fight can change the opinion of everything. And that's my thing, especially now going into boxing. We brought it up so many times on this program, is that if I don't care anymore. 10 years ago, this 2 losses would have been a big deal. Now I don't care. You know what I mean? If you go and you go beat up Buatsi and win that fight, guess what? Now you're the guy. We have to put more respect on your name. So I'm willing to take out all my criticisms and eat crow if he puts on a good performance. But against Buatsi, that's tough. You know what I mean? I'm definitely putting Buatsi in my parlay. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely like Buatsi winning this one. I think that overall, in the past like 2-3 years, he's fought, I think, tougher competition, or he's beaten tougher competition. I think that Callum Smith has fought the toughest guy out of the two of them in Artur Beterbiev, but Buatsi beat Willie Hutchinson, who was
This is a good fight.
yeah,
Oh, and I'm tripping. I'm tripping, bro. Take away what I said about the interim title. It's like you already won the interim title on
yeah,
that what's it called, that September card.
yeah.
But I mean, still, it's just kind of like and then now you're defending the interim title.
It's
I don't
almost
know.
like why are we even mentioning it? To be honest, it's not even like
I
a
definitely have Buatsi too. Yeah, it's like it takes away it. I mean, it really takes away the, like, I don't want to say the meaning, but any worth for the interim title. You know what I mean? Like, if you're an interim champ, like, it's at least in UFC for the most part, if you're an interim champ, it's kind of a big deal.
yeah.
Depending on some of the times they get kind of boxing-esque with it, like Cyril Gone. I was like, bro, Francis just won this like 4 months ago. What are you doing with an interim title? But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. But any last thoughts on Buatsi versus?
Callum Smith. I think it's a great start to the main card, honestly. Like,
I think it's a great card to start. And look at Eastern time; it's 11:45. Damn, I'm gonna be watching boxing for 6 hours.
hey, I mean,
I'm
low
down.
I'm down for it. And it's honestly, again, like, when are we gonna have a card like this again? Like, this card is like stacked from
Starts
top
at
to bottom.
11:45. I know. And then we have Kabayel versus Big Bang Zhang. Dude, I don't. Here's the thing, bro. I feel like I'm just hating on everything. I'm official hater, Adam. I'm a hater. I guess you can say it for at least today. I don't know, man. I feel like Zhang. There could have been different matchups to make, but I don't know. This is a tough one. I like Kabayel,
For
especially
Zhang,
coming off of his win against Frank Sanchez. That was impressive. But I mean, and Big Bang is old.
yeah. I'll say this though. I'll say that in the first 4 rounds, Zhang is like the most dangerous. Like, he
Oh,
like
big time.
literally activity combined with his power. He's literally, if he can get something going in the first 4 rounds, I have him in favor of that. But then after round 4, like you saw with Joseph Parker, it's like his activity just stops. It's like
Hmm.
activity stops and he's almost moving. He's kind of just moving up through the ring, and that's kind of what lost him the fight. Like, he has like spurts, but he just literally stops throwing for I think maybe
Yeah,
because of conditioning or something. But he literally just stops throwing, and it costs him the fight. And against a guy against Agit Kabayel, who, bro, so athletic, so fast, and just straight in your face for however long the fight's gonna last. I don't know if that's the smartest idea.
but that's the thing. Yeah, styles make fights, man, and it's with a guy like Joseph Parker. He was kind of able to like pick him apart on the outside, not let him get set. That I felt like Parker was able to win that fight. But if Kabayel is going to try to sit there and trade blow for blow with Big Bang Zhang, like, another guy did by the name of Joe Joyce, brother, brother,
Could be,
it's going to get,
but again,
it might not be nice.
yeah. The only thing I'll say is this: Joyce moves like Sid the Sloth. So like,
Yeah.
and he takes like 3 punches just to give two. So like,
Hmm.
he had like the worst defense in like all of heavyweight boxing. So I mean, we really just have to see, but I mean, this is again stylistically a much easier fight for him to land his offense and land combinations. But again, like after round 4, could be a situation where he might be gassed out or something like that, and Kabayel could take advantage if Kabayel can withstand those shots.
Yeah, they're big shots, and that's the thing. I feel like Zhang is so huge. Adam Hurley said he's taking Zhang, and he also said I'm a big Zhang fan, but I'm worried about this one. I might have to take Zhang too, man. I might have to. I like Kabayel though. I do like Kabayel, but I don't know. Just with Zhang, he's like a fan favorite type of guy. I might
Yeah,
have to take him, but I'm excited about this fight. There was a certain guy that I wanted him to get matched up with, but didn't. But we might get to that a little bit. But let's talk about Vergil Ortiz versus Israil Madrimov. This is a crazy fight because Madrimov was like scheduled to fight Bochuk and then just didn't, which I thought was smart because it's like, okay, well, I get the fight against the winner. Like,
yeah,
why am I gonna fight this guy anyways? You know what I mean?
yeah, and
Um,
it would have been 2 tough fights back to back, like,
That's what I'm saying. It's not like he's an easy fight. It's not. I think we talked about this before. It's not like when Danny Garcia had 2 fights scheduled and one of them was against Rod Salka. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, you know, and then I think his belts weren't even on the line because they didn't want to sanction it. But Madrimov is a guy who, like we said, he's coming off of a loss, but in that loss, he put himself on the map. So with this, it's like, is he the favorite going into this fight? You know what I mean?
yeah, it's hard
And
not to, but, I'd still give the advantage to Vergil Ortiz. I think
and
styles gonna
Vergil
fight.
Ortiz, even in his last fight, Ortiz was down in rounds 1 and 8, which even both of those knockdowns you can kind of argue like might not have been knockdowns. One was like a trip, the other one was kind of like a slip, but officially they were knockdowns. And this fight was close, man. Like it was a majority decision, so that's a super close fight. Um, I mean, if you like, I guess it just depends on who's better, Bochuk or Madrimov. And if Madrimov is better, then Ortiz. I think what that fight did though, the Bochuk fight, is that Ortiz kind of had this like, oh my god, he's got this aura to him where he's going to like he's knocked out everybody. Like, what is this guy? You know what I'm saying? And then Bochuk went in there and put on a crazy fight with him. That was a good fight, and I felt like it kind of stripped that away a little bit and made him look human. So now that he looks human, you step in there against a guy like Madrimov, who just did 12 rounds with Terrence. How much better did that make him? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
On his 12th pro fight, might I
yeah.
add.
My thing with it is that, again, like kind of like similar with the Kabayel and Zhang fight. I think Ortiz is going to be a lot more active than Terrence Crawford was in the fight. I think Crawford was a little too patient with Madrimov,
Mhm.
and Madrimov was able to process information and really read him. I mean, Ortiz not naturally is you know, an offensive guy, a lot of volume. So it'd be interesting how Madrimov kind of deals with that. But I do think Madrimov is going to trouble Ortiz a lot with his movement and his footwork, because I think that what Madrimov does well is really cut off angles. Um, it's going to be interesting. I think this is the fight I'm most excited for on this card. I think that
It's the most
Mad,
intriguing, I would say.
yeah, Madrimov is his stock's at an all-time high after that performance against Terrence Crawford, and Vergil Ortiz, despite getting knocked down twice. I mean, that fight was one of the fights of the year last year. So, I
Yeah.
mean, this is going to be a crazy fight, a pick'em fight to me. I'll give Ortiz the advantage. I just think that I don't know why. I just think that maybe his volume and him controlling the ring will make the difference, but it could go either way.
Hold on. I'm seeing something right here that I'll put on the side for now. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm interested in this one. It's definitely gonna be interesting. I'm surprised it's as low as it is on the card, but after that, we got Adames versus Sheeraz. Dude, this fight, I'm looking forward to this one too. Just off the bat, who are you taking in it?
Um, I'm going with Hamzah Sheeraz. I have to. I mean, dude's a freaking unicorn at middleweight, bro. So huge, so
Bro,
so strong, so powerful.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Is that 15 stoppages in a row?
Yeah. So like again, like I'm I think this fight is gonna be a real test. Well, I thought Ammo Williams was a good test too, but this
He
fight, I
passed
mean,
that test.
yeah, Ammo Will or but I think Adames, I mean, obviously WBC champion. Adames is gonna give him a look that he's never seen before. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Adames is gonna really frustrate him. He has some pop to his thing, but he's a real patient fighter. Someone that's gonna be very calculated in this fight. Uh, but man, I still think maybe like it'll take some time for Hamza to really adjust. But I think round 9 he'll catch him with something, and that'll be it. To be honest.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I've never been like, nothing's really made me go, you know what? I really gotta watch that Carlos Adames fight. I don't know what it is, but it's just maybe the way people are promoted. You know what I mean? Maybe that comes a part of it. Like sometimes, you could buy into the hype of people. I just feel like there isn't hype behind Carlos Adames.
No,
You
there's.
know,
I think there's almost borderline zero hype. Like
that's what I'm saying. And especially whenever somebody's elevated to champion, it feels a little bit different. Because obviously they give away interim world titles like candy. So when they're just giving away interim world titles and then something happens to the world champ, oh, guess what? You just got elevated. Hey, open your email. Check what's in there.
Eh,
So,
yeah, I mean, yeah, because originally, I mean, if we're being honest, this is Charlo's belt. If we're being completely honest,
yeah,
this is technically supposed to be Charlo's belt if Charlo would get
if
his
Charlo ever fought,
yeah,
but he just
but
doesn't fight. So,
yeah, like no disrespect to Adamas, man. His last fight was against Terrell Gache, who
mhm.
I mean, besides him getting not him knocking down Tim Zhu that one time. Don't really remember much about him. Uh, that's pretty much it. That's literally only, and I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, lost to Erickson Lubin, draw.
Draw with Trout, lost to Lara. Um, yeah.
Didn't really hasn't really won a big one to. So I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not trying to disrespect Adames because he is the world champion coming in, but I just maybe I'm buying into the hype of Hamza Sheeraz, but he's just so big for the division. Has such a
I
long
mean, I'm definitely buying into the hype of Hamza Sheeraz, and especially after that. Like, I wasn't necessarily before. I was like, okay, let's see what's going on with this guy. But then after the Emma Williams fight, I was like, all right, I'm down.
yeah.
This guy looks huge in there.
I was really high. I was really high on Ammo too. So like the fact that he was able to, stop him, especially in the later rounds. All I had to see about that.
Well, that being said, I know we already talked about Shakur versus Josh. Let's talk about how Dynamite Daniel Dubois is out and Bakole is in. I mean, we were talking about at the beginning of the program that Floyd Schofield got sick and then had to leave. And then this morning, Daniel Dubois gets sick, says he has a fever, all of this. He gets pulled from the fight. And I'm like, man, what's going on? I saw an Instagram post that was talking about how he was how Dubois didn't feel good and was it possibly ill. And I saw in the comments Fabricio Wardley was like with the eyes that are like kind of like sideways and then with a phone emoji. I was like, damn, that would be sick. Like I like that kind of energy. But the fact that Martin Bakole is stepping in, bro, I'm down for that. And then I see this on Twitter where let me see if I can find it. It's right here. Martin Bakole after receiving 2 houses, 10 million, and 4 Lamborghinis to fight Parker on 2 days' notice. And he's over here. But yeah, man, I like what's it called? I like Bakole.
You're pretty high on him, honestly. You're very high on him.
Why
Like
you're not a fan?
no. I think he
Are you
broke
a hater, dude?
not with Bakole. I don't think so. I'm a little bit a hater Daniel Dubois, so I was actually
I'm also a little bit of hater of Daniel Ball too, but that's the thing, like for example, like what I said about Callum Smith. Callum Smith, like I said, if he wins, then that's it. I have to shut up. I was a hater of Daniel Dubois, and then he knocked out Anthony Joshua 3.0. So that's it. I can't say anything. He
yeah.
won. You know what I mean? So I can't hate on him no more. Him pulling out is kind of lame, but if he's really sick, then sure. You know what I mean? But for Bakole to step in, bro, I love it. The one thing I was gonna say earlier about Big Bang Zhang is that I really wanted to see Big Bang Zhang versus Bakole get made. Two big guys like that,
I think that would have been a crazy fight. Just because they would have just been in the center of the ring. They're not gonna really move
bro.
much.
Two big guys. What are your thoughts on Bakole taking this fight on freaking 2 days notice? It's not like he has to make weight.
Yeah, I mean, he has nothing to lose. He really doesn't. I think he has nothing to lose, and honestly, like, I think this is a dangerous fight. I wouldn't say an even more dangerous fight, but a riskier fight for Joseph Parker to take. I think
Hmm.
size wise, I mean, he's gonna bully. I mean, if he's able to bully Joseph Parker, push him back,
Oh God,
could be a big could be a big issue for
it's gonna
Joseph
be
Parker,
tough, dude.
dude. But
Bro, Bakole, and the thing about Bakole too is that I don't think like if anybody was to take a fight on like 2 days notice, one, it's like he doesn't have to make weight. Two, I feel like his fighting style isn't that physically taxing anyways.
no,
Like, bro, he just kind of like stands there. It's almost kind of like Big George, you know what I mean? Where he just kind of stands there, like you try to push him back, but it doesn't really work. He'll
yeah,
like parry your shots with his arms, and then he just boom, boom, boom hits you like he's like throwing at the heavy bag.
yeah.
He doesn't
It's
really keep his hands up like this, you know what I mean? Like,
throws a lot of like he throws a lot of arm punches, but it's also like he's almost smothering you with like cause
mhm,
and with Joseph Parker too, especially like Joseph Parker 2.0, a lot of he needs some distance to really gauge you. I mean, you look at his fights with Wilder and Zhang. I mean, granted, those guys fight a lot different than Bakole. Bakole's a lot more
mhm,
in your face, whereas
yeah,
Wilder and Zhang, they're very patient, where they're looking
and
for
they'll
the
still
shot.
try and box you. Yeah, I think that's the key to victory. I think you nailed it on the head. Is that if Bakole just kind of stalks him and is like, bro, you can't go anywhere. And you saw, I mean, against a big guy like Zhang, Parker still got dropped twice. You know what I mean? And that's with Zhang kind of like not really doing anything. With Bakole, he's gonna be like, bro, get those punches out of my face. Like I'm walking you down. So Bakole's on my parlay. Like I mean,
And
is it gonna be by KO though? Is the question.
I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing, it has to be by KO. Because do you really think he's in fight shape? Like, I know it's heavyweight, but do you
For
think
12 rounds.
yeah, for 12 rounds, do you think he's 12 round ready? Um, I
Probably
I I
not.
I do have to agree though that, like, I low key kinda wanna take Bakole in this fight. I don't know what it is, but, I mean, give me my money, honestly. Give me my
Anderson KO, Takam KO, Shedeva
yeah,
KO,
you got that
Tony
one right
Yoka
there,
majority decision, KO, UD KO, 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 KO. He lost to Michael Hunter.
which is kinda crazy, but
Bakole sustained an injured right shoulder.
Mm.
So, I mean, what does that mean? He got knocked out like Andre Berto got knocked out by Jesus Soto Coras back in
Mm.
2012. That's a throwback fight where he basically was fighting one-handed. The ref let him fight one-handed for the whole fight, and then in the 12th round, he takes a couple shots, and then the ref waves it off. I'm like, ref, what are you doing? But who knows? I didn't see this fight, so I can't talk on it. But then KO points, KO points. Like, bro, I mean, he's only got 16 KOs, which is crazy. But it's like a lot of these KOs are coming where it matters. Out of his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Out of his last 10, 8 of them have been KOs or TKOs.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah. I definitely think, I mean, again, you're only as good as your last fight, and the way that he starched Jared Anderson, I mean, you can't really bet against him, honestly.
BoxRec has him ranked number 5 in the world. What is the Ring Magazine's rankings? Let me check that. Mag rankings. Hold on, Ring Magazine. I just subscribed to the magazine. I just ordered them.
I'm thinking about it, honestly.
I did. Okay, so let's see. Share this tab. Heavyweight. Bakole's number 6 on here. Kabayel's number 5. And Zhang's number 4. Wow. And Joshua's 7. I mean, that's fair. Hrgovic 8. Wardley 9. Jagba is number 10.
I
guess. Is there anybody else you would throw in here besides these guys?
In the top 10?
Yeah.
Moises Atama.
Okay.
I'll put him at 10, but that's just
Instead of a Jagba?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. And then I don't even want to. I'll go into all of these all day. We got to break these down maybe on the next show.
Yeah.
But that being said, yeah, Bakole. I think the story is about Bakole. You know what I mean? And bro, if he goes in there and wins, dude, and becomes interim champ, like, forget about fighting a Jabba. Fight Usyk, which he's not going to beat Usyk, but at least it's a big payday.
Yeah. I think, in my personal opinion, I think Bakole and Agit Kabayel are the next wave of top heavyweight boxers. Like, I think once Usyk, Fury, and Joshua really just hang it up, those two are taking over the division. That's
and Bakole is the guy who's like that's what heavyweight boxing's about, bro.
Yeah,
I think big dude swings his arms and freaking knocks people out.
I think he'll be the most feared at the end of the year. I think he'll be the most feared heavyweight.
I might fear him the most right now, bro. So when I saw the news earlier today, I was in here in the office, and I showed my brother-in-law. I was like, bro, this guy just signed the fight on 2 days' notice. And I was like, you ever heard of him? He's like, no. He's more of a UFC fan, right? So I go, okay, check this out. And I showed him like the highlight of him knocking out Jared Anderson. And he was like, holy. I said, yeah, dude. Could have broke his neck.
Yeah, literally.
Could have broke his neck.
Literally made Jared Anderson hate boxing.
I would have preferred a Jared Anderson versus a Jabba fight. You know what I mean? That's the kind of fight that should have been made. They're like more kind of I guess not huge heavyweights. I don't want to say small heavyweights, but not huge. So I feel like
they're like an athletic heavyweight.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that being said, before we go to the main event to finish this off, who you got? You got Bakole or Parker in this newly developed co-main event?
The ignorance in me is saying Martin Bakole on 2 days' notice. I think that despite the great performances that Joseph Parker has had, I think stylistically those fights were in his favor just because he had time to really outbox him and really, kind of piece him up. he's really not going to have time with Bakole. If Bakole just stands and walks him forward, it's not going to. I think Bakole is able to stop him in the 5th round because I think shots. I mean, granted, Big Bang can throw some hard shots. I think Bakole will load him up, and I think he'll follow up. Big Bang just is one shot. Bakole,
Yeah, because I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Joe Joyce freaking murked him. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, bro. It was only 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, and
That's not crazy.
Yeah, and Joe Joyce is a guy too who he likes to he stops you with accumulation of punishment. Same thing with Bakole.
Mhm.
I just think Bakole hits harder.
For sure. So that's the thing. And then, obviously you got to give Joseph Parker credit because he's come back from that with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins. But I mean, you see at least the last 2, right? Wilder, we didn't realize at the time, but potentially is a husk of his former self. And then against Big Bang, it's kind of like, all right, he was able to do his thing. I can't take anything away from him, but it's just one of those where I'm like, maybe there might be a slight chance, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but there may be a slight chance of overhype here on Joseph Parker. There might be a slight chance, and for that reason, I'm betting against him.
Yeah, I think what he's done since the loss is great. Again, I'm just gonna go back to the point. It's just he's fought guys where he's been able to implement his game plan. He's had the time to implement it. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
He's
exactly.
you look at him.
Which to do that, I give him credit because to do that over 12 rounds against somebody who's that tough and powerful against, especially coming down from 2 knockdowns with in the example of Big Bang, it's not to say it's easy and it deserves a lot of credit, but to your point.
Yeah, styles makes fights. I just think that it could be me glazing like a Krispy Kreme donut, but
I'm
I
reverse glazing.
I'm a pro glazer, and Martin Bakole I think is the next top heavyweight.
Yeah, low key, no Diddy. I'm glazing Bakole right now
So that's
for
okay.
sure.
That's okay.
But
I'll take down the chin.
with this one, pause. Pick the glaze on the chin. Let's get into the rematch, bro. Rematch for undisputed. Beterbiev versus Bivol 2.
Isn't that crazy that it's gonna start at 2 a.m. Saudi time?
That is nuts. Yeah, actually, that is pretty crazy.
So
Yeah, that's nuts. Especially for these, it's like these cards are crazy. But I mean, low key, bro, make it like give us like these 3 fights more of kind of you don't have to stack the card this hard, bro, to be honest. You don't have to stack it this hard. But I guess they do. And then how much is it? 20
$25.
26 bucks?
God,
I'm buying it. I'm buying it for sure.
bro,
All right. So
I'd be
Beterbiev
stressing
versus
over.
Bivol 2.
Yeah, this is again, even though this is again another 50-50 fight. I I don't know where to go with it because that fight, the first fight was so close, so tight, like so tight. Could have went either way depending on how you looked at it as a judge perspective. I'm going Bivol in this one. I think Bivol might win. Only because in the first fight, I think he was landing the more flush, clear shots. The only problem is like we talked about it with kind of Shakur and Arizlani Lara. Sometimes he was always backing up, kind of evading the shots, and Beterbiev was taking control of the ring. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? He threw
I
a
think
lot
it
more.
was, yeah.
He threw a
I
lot more
agree.
too, which I mean, it wasn't accurate, but it was a lot of activity. I think you're going to see Bivol kind of sit down more on his punches and kind of trade a little bit more, which puts a little bit more of a risk. But he put on a perfect game plan against Artur Beterbiev. His perfect game plan. By perfect, I mean his style in terms of cutting the ring, using angles, really moving a lot, throwing a lot of combinations, and that couldn't get him the nod. So I think you're going to see him kind of trade a little bit, really try to maybe control the ring, still kind of implement the movement, but man, if B-Ball is able to do that against a 40-year-old Artur Beterbiev, this one can go in his favor.
Yeah, I think for like you said, when he was trading a bit, bro, when Bivol was trading a bit, I was like, I like that, do more of that. Obviously, it's hard to say that against a guy like Beterbiev, but that's what he's gonna need to do. He's gonna need to like bite down on the mouthpiece and try and trade like that in this rematch. And like you said, he kind of fought basically his perfect game plan. The issue was that I thought, because some people, it was a very close fight, 50-50 fight. Even by the end of it, it was still a 50-50 fight. And then a lot of people were like, oh, I thought Bivol won. My thing is that for us watching on the screen, Bivol was like moving out laterally, and then Beterbiev would throw a shot, hit Bivol on the gloves, and kind of move him. For us, we saw that landed on the gloves. It doesn't look like a scoring blow. If the judge is over in that corner and the shot goes like this and they can't see it,
He's gonna be like, "Damn, that's a hard ass
they
shot."
might think, and then yeah, and it moves them like that. For them, it's optics. They go, "Ooh, that was a tough shot." So even though it's not technically should be a scoring blow, they score that more than a blow that does land because they think, "Oh, this just moved them all the way over." When in reality, it was Dmitry moving laterally, and then he gets hit while he's moving. So I felt like it was more of an optics thing with the scorecards in that. I might be completely wrong. Who knows? I don't know shit about boxing. But that's where I kind of thought it was with that. And it was super close, 50-50 fight. But I'm interested in this one. And then let me ask you this question. Who do you trust more to make adjustments in this upcoming fight?
That's tough because I think they're both disciplined enough to make adjustments. Because I think Artur Beterbiev kind of realizes too in that fight, as he was coming forward, he started following Bivol more, which kind of got him caught in a few of those shots that Bivol threw at him.
Mhm.
I think Bivol will make more adjustments, but I think Beterbiev might make the smarter adjustments just because he has. I mean, he already won, so Bivol's not really expecting him to make anything real drastic, and that could be a fault for Bivol. But I think Bivol will make the bigger adjustments, but Beterbiev might make the smarter ones. That's kind of where I'm going with that.
And then let me ask you this, because actually I have a point and then I'll ask you a question. I think, like what we were saying with Bivol, one of the adjustments I feel like he needs to make is doing that kind of like, when he put his foot down and started kind of trading with him a little bit, he did well. But if that's one of the adjustments you have to make, that's super risky. That's a risky adjustment. So if you're saying, "Oh, well, that's going to help you win the fight," is if you do more of that. Okay, well, that's just going to give you more of an opportunity to get hit by the strongest puncher in the division. So I think that is a hard ask when it comes to possibly that, but who knows? Maybe there's several other adjustments that he needs to make. And I guess we'll see it on Saturday. But I think let me and if Bivol loses again, do we automatically see Beterbiev versus Benavidez? And is there any interest in a Canelo versus Bivol rematch?
So I think that easily Beterbiev versus Benavidez has to be next. I think Benavidez is going to be ringside for that fight.
Yeah, I
I think
heard.
that's the fight to make. I mean, Benavidez is now strictly at 175, so I think that's going to be the fight to make next if Beterbiev wins. If Bivol wins, we gotta run it back for a trilogy. If Bivol takes two straight losses, I think I think the plan is that Canelo potentially fights Bivol first quarter of 2026. But my thing is, how much money are you going to make with that? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
especially coming off of 2 losses.
It depends. It depends because we talked about this already. Losses really don't matter now in
Well, I feel like the other thing too is that now there's nothing on the table. Before, the whole reason why he even fought him before is because it was the WBA light heavyweight title,
I think
right? And even then, it wasn't really like for the casuals, they were like, "Oh, what is this fight?" You know, and it's like it's actually a super tough fight,
yeah.
and Canelo ultimately lost. But with if Bivol has absolutely nothing to bring to the table other than just getting the win back, it's like if you're gonna go up to light heavyweight and fight, would it not make more sense to just fight Beterbiev for all
I,
the titles?
he won't do that. I think what would happen though is if Bivol loses 2 in a row, the ball is in Canelo's court, and he could potentially make that fight at 168 for undisputed
Ah,
because Bivol has gone on record saying he could make 168. That's more of his natural fighting weight. And then you drop more interest because then it means a little bit more despite Bivol coming off 2 losses.
yeah, because the thing that I had seen before though was that Bivol had mentioned that, like, "Oh, well, I want to go to 168 and fight him for his titles," and Canelo was like, "Nah, we're not going to do that because I want to get back at 175," which is kind of crazy to think that that's the way that the conversation's going. You would think it would be the opposite, like, "Oh, well, really, it wasn't my weight, blah blah blah." But it's shout out to these guys for wanting to challenge themselves, but I feel like maybe Canelo's more open to it because a rematch at 175, there's nothing on the table. The only
Yeah.
thing on the table is the fact that you're avenging that loss on your record. And at this point, I don't feel like there's really like if you're avenging the loss on your record, unless you're like somebody like me or you, we're not looking at the whole, okay, well, is it at 168 or 175? You know what I mean? Andre Ward beat Chad Dawson.
Yeah.
But is there an asterisk on it?
I mean, for the casual
But
fan,
it's the same situation, no?
yeah. It
The
really is
exact same.
because Chad had to train himself for that fight.
Exactly. So
But
that's where
no one's gonna care about that though. No one's literally gonna care about that because they see that name, they see that who Andre Ward beat, and they're like, yeah,
bad Chad.
yeah,
So that's where, yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at with that. But yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't mind that either. Yeah, okay. So if Bivol loses and then goes, hey, well, actually, the only thing I have, like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna sell? A non-title fight at 175 for Canelo's, you know, honor, or hey, let's do this rematch so Bivol can try to be two-time undisputed. It does make more sense now. If Bivol still was a WBA champion at light heavyweight, I would say no. But if nothing, then that's the better route. Which I don't know if that makes sense, but that it makes sense in my head.
yeah. I just think like if we're because you're asking if is that on the table, that's the only way it makes sense. Like even Canelo and Crawford is potentially for undisputed. It's for belts, even though that's a dream fight. Dream fights need like stipulations too, or they need some kind of reward for it. You know what I
hmm
mean?
There has to be something, especially, Crawford's not going to go up if he were to beat Canelo and then go fight William Skull, right? And you know what's funny is that we were talking about this, like we were like, oh well, what's Canelo's May fight going to be? And I'm like, William Skull, bro. Like, what are we talking about? What other fight is there? Go. It doesn't matter if everybody hates on you. Go get the title.
Yeah, because here's the thing, like, yeah, the fight is cool, but the fight between Canelo and Crawford is cool, but for it to be undisputed for all the belts,
It's yeah.
it's gonna make the most
It,
amount of money. You gotta market. You gotta be able to market the fight and
mhm.
maximize the market, and having all the belts on that poster is gonna be crazy.
Which is kind of what they did with the Charlo thing, undisputed versus undisputed, and it was like him going up from 54 to 68. Now this is the same thing, but he had just went up from 47, so it's even worse. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of moving parts with all of this, but that's what I kind of like about boxing is like right now there is a lot of moving parts. Things are going in a good direction with this Beterbiev versus Bivol too. I just want to see a good fight, and I'm interested to see who makes the adjustments. And I just hope to see a good fight. But I feel like this is going to be a huge, like, awesome card throughout the entire day. And you know, look at all of
And
the
and for $26, I mean, look, I got robbed with Benavidez and Morel, so like I'm not even stressing about
what
buying.
was Benavidez and Morel. I was at the T-Pain concert, so I had to like watch it after the
Oh,
fact.
I think it was 80 or $90.
Bro, what? That's a robbery, dude. To be honest with you,
Yeah, look,
that is a robbery. And what was the co-main event?
Fulton and Figueroa.
Oh, two, the rematch.
Yeah,
Come on, bro.
bro. I
You
think
telling me you want me to watch freaking, Omar Figueroa's little brother?
like if you put that fight on this card, it's probably headlining the prelims or something.
Bro, you're talking about Omar Figueroa's sister's little brother? But yeah, man. I mean, this is gonna be a great card. I'm interested to see what happens. But I think we could just leave it at that, man. Any final thoughts you got for this entire fight? Um, I would say real quick, give your thoughts and then go from bottom to top and give me a parlay.
All right, so we'll go. I think we're gonna start seeing cards like this a lot more often. I think not a lot more often, but these
I would
Saudi
say
cards,
once a quarter, maybe, right?
yeah, once a quarter, I think. And I think these Saudi cards are really changing like the game of boxing. You know what I mean? Like we've talked about it, like, bro, we haven't seen promoters, hug, kumbaya like this ever. You know what I mean? Promoters
Yeah.
are very ego pride, have a lot of pride, a lot of ego.
Mhm.
So the fact that everybody is under one banner for these fight cards is really insane. So let's go from top or from bottom to the top. All right. So Buatsi and Smith. I'm gonna have Buatsi. I'll probably say that's it. I'll take him at decision. Zhang versus Kabayel. I got Kabayel. In the 8th. Ortiz Madrimov. I have Ortiz decision. Adamas Sheeraz in the 9th. Shakur Padley. Realistically, Shakur majority decision. But expectation or what should happen, Shakur 4th round. What should happen? Bakole Parker, Bakole 3rd round. I'll go with that.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
Wow.
Beterbiev, Bivol split decision.
Wow. That's not bad. You know what's funny is that Shakur, my last point about this, because I said I wasn't going to talk about it. He, like, if he goes out there and just puts on like an absolute stop down, bro, this guy will be able to milk like this win and just because now he can act like he's tough again, right? And he'll be able to milk this for another 3 fights. Because then, or at least 2 fights, right? He could be like, oh, I'm tough. See what I did? And then he could go out, fight another bullshit fight, snoozer, and then just be like, oh, my hand was hurt again, or my ankle was sore, even though he's running on the whole time. And then, or he could be like, oh, my shoulder or my rib or something like that. And then, then do another, bullshit fight too. And then he could just milk it all the way to the bank. But we have an IBF title that's going to be vacated in that division. I don't know why it's not vacated already. Keyshawn Davis winning the WBO, crazy. And then you got Gervonta Davis finally with the actual WBA title since WBA decided to get their shit together. So we'll see what happens. But let me do the same. Great card, bottom to top, awesome. we'll see about the Shakur fight. That's kind of where I'm like, eh. But I'm going Buatsi. I'm going Big Bang, bro. I'm going Big Bang. I'm going Madrimov. I'm going Sheeraz, Shakur, Bakole, and then Bivol, man. Bivol. I think he's already lost, so he's just gonna say YOLO and be a better fighter than he ever was.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
think yeah, again, and I think the 50-50 fights that we disagreed on, I mean, again, those are split. Those are split opinions, you know what I mean? It can go either way.
what? So like Zhang versus Kabayel, I said the other way,
Yeah,
and then
and
Ortiz
Ortiz and
versus
Madrimov,
Madrimov.
those
Yeah,
are
that's what
split.
I'm saying. If it went the other way, I wouldn't be surprised. But for the most part, I'm assuming that I'm going to be right and you're going to be wrong because I just know more about boxing than you.
You're right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But that being said, brother, another good one for the books. Let's see what happens, and then guys, be on the lookout. Stay tuned. There could very well possibly be a post-fight show if I'm able to do it. But yeah, be on the lookout, and then until next time.
Are you ready for the main event?
2 hits. They hitting you, you hitting the floor.
It's time for Boxing Bananas, brought to you by Fight Bananas.